Hey everybody, welcome back to Fixing Fandom. Thanks for tuning in today. I just got back from seeing Shang Chi, and I just wanted to leave a quick review, kind of my initial thoughts about it. Overall, the movie was excellent. It's Marvel. Marvel just is on the ball with everything they're doing right now, and this was one that I was super excited for. I probably my most anticipated Marvel movie. I've mentioned on a couple other places, over at Honest and Uneducated on our show over there. I've mentioned that, martial arts films were a huge part of my life. I watched a lot of Bruce Lee films when I was growing up, and then I was really into Jet Li's films. I even got into, some of you will remember Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme were the kind of American martial arts heroes for a hot minute there in the early '90s. So, I've been to a lot of martial arts films for a long time, and so, Marvel doing a martial arts film was like just the best of both worlds for me. I was super pumped for this movie, and I gotta say, it did not disappoint. It surprised me. Initially coming out of the theater, I was like, well, okay, that's not really what I expected, and it took me some kind of some thinking on it to really get my feelings on it and adjusted, because when you go into a movie expecting one thing and they give you something else, sometimes that throws you off a little bit, and I was definitely caught by surprise, but in a very good way. And I'm gonna try and keep this review pretty spoiler free. I don't want to, a movie just came out. I saw the first showing on Thursday evening in my local town, so I'm not sure where everybody else is, if it's even out in some places by the time this video goes up. So I'll keep it spoiler free for now. Maybe in another week or so, I might delve into spoiler territory and do another review. But for now, again, spoiler free. I'll start with the introduction of Shang-Chi, the character himself. It's a great introduction. There's a little twist to his intro that you maybe don't see coming. They imply that one thing is going on and then something else happens. It's a cool little funny little moment that is a twist on what you might expect. And then we move into the actors and the characters of the movie. The acting was just phenomenal across the board. A special note is Simu Liu, who plays the title character Shang-Chi. He's incredible, and his chemistry with Aquafina is perfect for the way they play those two. Those two characters have a very tied together arc, and their chemistry really just bumps their interactions, their story kind of up a notch because of just how good those two are together. So that was a very welcome surprise. I wasn't expecting Aquafina, to play such a large role in the film, and she does so brilliantly. A lot of people might think of her as kind of a comedic actress. She might be there just for chuckles and jokes, and it isn't that way. As a matter of fact, with my Black Widow review, I did mention that I thought that David Harbour's Red Guardian character was maybe played a little too much for laughs, and I thought maybe Aquafina could come off as very similar, and she doesn't. She definitely gets her moments to shine comedically, but she also plays some very serious parts in the movie, and she does so just great. The rest of the cast from top to bottom is excellent. There's one cast member in particular that I was surprised to see. Still very happy to see this character brought back, and that's kind of maybe a little hint as to who it is. But this character appeared previously in the MCU, and they are brought back, and it was a fun little callback to an earlier MCU movie. Because it is a martial arts film, I'd be doing you a huge disservice to not talk about the fight choreography. The fights in this movie are just bonkers. I mean that in the best way possible. Like, you'll just be amazed at the stunts that they pull off in the different fights. The one that's been in the trailers the most, and I don't really consider this spoiler territory because did play so much in the trailers was the fight on the bus. And it's just a really fun, really good, fast-paced fight scene. The other thing that I should highlight about the fights is the camera work is astounding. Like, you can actually see what's going on. This isn't shaky cam, like, did the actors really pull this off, or was it just like quick cuts and moves that don't ever connect or don't ever land or whatever. The fight choreography was excellent, and the camera lets you see how excellent it is. So, don't be afraid that you're not going to be able to follow the fights. They are just phenomenal. There's some things that happen in some of the fights that I've never seen in a martial arts film. As I mentioned, I'm a huge martial arts fan, and like, to see stuff I've never seen before, I was pleasantly surprised. Like, there were a couple scenes where I was audibly gasping, like, oh my goodness. Like, some of the stuff that they pull off is great. The highlight of the entire film for me has to be the scaffolding fight on the side of a building. That one has kind of been glimpsed a little bit in the trailers, but there's an entire fight sequence that happens on the side of a building that's just amazing. Some of the stunts they pull off, some of the way they use the scaffolding, and just the fight itself is amazing. It's pretty visceral too. Like, you feel the hits and the punches and the kicks and everything that goes along with it. There are some scenes that one guy, I can remember one scene in particular where Shang Chi, kind of grabs a guy and throws him into the window, and you feel the force of it. So it's a very cool fight scene, and all the fight scenes, top to bottom, were just incredible. The movie definitely pays tribute to a lot of classic martial arts films. Of particular note, I think that anybody seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon will definitely feel the influence of that movie on this one. But it's not all just Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, wire work and things like that. They kind of mix different styles of martial arts films together, so you get something kind of new but very familiar. There's also a Kung Fu Hustle poster that actually shows up in the background of one of the characters. I believe it's his apartment. So that obviously is a clear callback to or influence on the film. The Ten Rings themselves get used in ways that I never even considered that they'd be used in some very inventive and clever ways to use the Ten Rings, which I thought was very cool. Not just in the fights themselves, but just kind of as sources of power for the characters. And so that was the fight choreography is excellent. I definitely, even if you're not into MCU movies, even if you're not there for the story, like, if you just want to see cool fights, you definitely need to check this film out. The story, however, is totally worth going for too as well. I mean, the story is what caught me off guard. I was expecting the story to be one thing, and it's different than I thought it would be, and in a very good way. It plays out differently than I expected, and by the end, there's a real emotional weight to the story that I didn't really expect. Based on the trailers, I had an impression of what to expect from the film, and by the end, there's a couple, when you reach the climax of the movie and some of the things that happen at the end, you really feel it. It packs a wallop. So if I had to, like, if this is like a critical thinking like review, and like you have to give the positive but you also have to give the negative, the only thing I really kind of wish they would have delved into more was how the Ten Rings work. There's definitely talk about how they work, and I wish they would have explored that a little more. However, there's some very strong hints that they didn't for a particular reason, that the Ten Rings have a large part to play in the MCU, and we will be exploring them much more at a later date. This movie was really, I think, to establish Shang-Chi's character, his world, his family, everybody that is kind of in his orbit, and it does so excellently. There are two end-credit scenes. There's, it's kind of your typical end-credit scenes for Marvel. You get one after the graphics-heavy end credits where they highlight, the actors and the director of the movie, and they've got cool graphics that kind of highlight scenes from the movie, and that plays immediately after the closing scene of the film. So you get one there, and then of course after your production credits with everybody that worked on the movie, there's one at the very end of the film. So you definitely want to stick around for both of them. Neither one is like a throwaway. Not that the Sharma scene from Avengers was a throwaway scene. It was hilarious and it was clever. But both of these have story impact on the MCU. So I would definitely recommend sticking around to see both of those. And that'll do it for me for this kind of recap of Shang Chi and my initial impressions. I'm sure we'll go into it more on our next episode of Honest and Uneducated, which should come out on Rob Befo's channel this coming Monday, I would expect. So yeah, we can look for maybe more in-depth talk about. We may even get into spoilers by that point, because at that point the movie will have been out all weekend. People will have had at least their initial thoughts to see it. The one last thing I'll close with is, unfortunately, I don't think this movie will make the money that it deserves to make. With the pandemic the way it is, with things becoming more dicey every day, the Delta variant causing issues. Whereas I think this movie is easily a $125–150 million opening in normal times. Unfortunately, I'm hoping at least it gets to Black Widow numbers. We'll see. Black Widow came out at a very different time than this film. The vaccinations were just ramping up when Black Widow came out. People were feeling more confident about the ability to fight the virus, and that has kind of waned in the past weeks. So it's a little different landscape right now than when Black Widow was released. So we'll have to kind of see what happens. Marvel took an interesting route and guaranteed that this will be in theaters exclusively for 45 days. So hopefully that will contribute to giving it some longevity in the theaters. Hopefully people that maybe don't feel comfortable going opening weekend will be more likely to go throughout the week or in the coming weeks ahead. So we'll see how that goes. And finally, if you could do the LCS, if you could like, subscribe, and comment, I'd love to hear what you guys thought about the movie. So drop a comment below with your thoughts on it. If you like the video, if you click that thumbs up button, that helps tremendously. And if you want to see what's coming up on the channel, I've hopefully got some things coming up sooner rather than later. We just recently put a review up for my personal Grail hot toy. It's a figure that ever since I kind of ramped up my collection of hot toys in the past couple years, it's a figure I've been on the lookout for, and I finally found one, and I found one that I was comfortable with the price point and everything, and so it's now in the collection, and I couldn't be more happy it is. So you can check out our video with that, and then also we've got a video up with in-game Thanos, it's not the battle damage version one that just came out, it's the regular version that had come out a little while ago, but I got a chance to get that video done and up, so you can check that out. There are some Mini-Mate reviews I'd like to get out relatively soon, so you can be on the lookout for those. And I have quite a backlog of Hot Toys reviews I need to get done. I've got probably well over a dozen figures I need to get reviews done on, so hopefully those will start coming out more regularly. But again, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you stopping by. I hope maybe this review gives you the push. If you're on the fence about seeing Shang-Chi, maybe this will push you to go see it. And if you do, I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do. I don't want anybody to go and feel like I led them astray, but I don't think you'll feel that way. This is just a really fun, really excellent movie and a great addition to the MCU. For me, it probably jumps up into my top 10, if not top 5 MCU films right away. So with that, I'll sign off. Take care, and we'll see you next time.